The boy learned that his grandmother had cancer, but he didn't feel the slightest bit of sadness. Instead, he discovered a huge business opportunity from it, because a few days ago, when the boy went to see his cousin, he found that his cousin was taking care of her paralyzed grandfather full-time. The grandfather's children only came occasionally. Only his cousin took care of him personally every day. The boy didn't understand. She had studied nursing for a long time. Why didn't she find a high-paying job, instead of wasting all her time here? But his cousin only left him one sentence.
ก็ทำอยู่นี่ไง
At first, the boy didn't understand what his cousin meant, until the grandfather passed away a month later. He left his million-yuan house to his cousin. As a grandson, the boy only got a silver belt, but his own children got nothing. At this moment, the boy suddenly realized. It turned out that his cousin taking care of the grandfather was a job, although the salary arrived very late, but it was definitely a profitable deal. The same opportunity was in front of him. His grandmother's situation was similar to that of the grandfather. She was now in the advanced stage of cancer, living alone in the old house, but that old house was also worth 1 million yuan, so the boy ran to the vicinity of his grandmother's house, took photos of the surrounding living environment and geographical location, then took photos of his grandmother's old house as well, and put them on an auction website for valuation. Then he took a bag of beef to visit his grandmother. However, his grandmother acted extremely cautiously, because just now, her two sons had come to visit one after another, and now even her grandson, who she hadn't seen in a long time, had come. She couldn't help but suspect that something had happened.
กูนับถือเจ้าแม่กวนอิมนะ กูไม่กินเนื้อ
It turned out that he knew very little about his grandmother. His grandmother asked him to buy the fried fish she often ate, but when he arrived at the fried fish stall, the boy looked helpless. He had never seen a small stall, with a queue that lasted for half an hour. He had a sudden idea when he saw the neighboring stall, so he bought fried fish from another stall for his grandmother. But his grandmother noticed something was wrong at a glance, because she had been buying fish there for 40 years.
ร้านอื่นนะทอดน่ะมันอมน้ำมัน กูไม่กินหรอก
There was no way, so the boy had to queue up honestly. But when he brought the fish back, his grandmother had already eaten her fill, and the fish bones from just now were on the table. The boy felt exhausted even though he had just started. But when he heard that his grandmother was going to boil water to worship Buddha, he still took the initiative to take on these tasks. But because he thought boiling water was too troublesome, the boy simply heated it up in the microwave. When his grandmother saw that the tea didn't even have steam, she angrily chased him away, and told him not to come again in the future. There was no way, so the boy had to ask his cousin for advice. His cousin asked him, "Are you treating taking care of your grandmother as an investment? I actually hate the grandfather's children. Every time they come to visit, they only stay for 15 minutes, but they don't know what the elderly really want." The boy suddenly froze when he heard that. It turned out that what the elderly needed was time and companionship, so he went home and immediately sold his computer equipment. Then he went to see his grandmother again, and said he wanted to live here permanently. His grandmother suddenly asked why they kept coming. What exactly were they hiding from her? Unexpectedly, the boy told the truth directly.
ม่าเป็นมะเร็งนะแต่ม่าขู่เขาไม่อยากให้ม่ารู้อะ
Then the boy hugged his grandmother and said he wanted to spend more time with her in the future. At this moment, the boy finally saw his grandmother's face clearly. The years had faded the color of her hair. Time had taken away her former expression. How could she not know what the boy wanted? But how could she not hope to have someone by her side? And so the boy stayed. However, his grandmother had to get up early every day to sell porridge. The boy, who had always been lazy, always arrived almost in time for lunch. Every month, his grandmother would go to the bank to deposit money, but she never let the boy follow her in. She didn't want him to see the information on the bank account. The weekend arrived. It was the rare family reunion day. Every time, it was the boy's mother who came first, and thoroughly cleaned the house for her grandmother. Today, his grandmother rarely wore a floral shirt. The boy praised her for looking so young, but asked why she didn't button it properly.
ติดแล้วมันแน่น กูไม่ชอบ
His grandmother sat outside the house, looking around constantly. At this moment, the boy still didn't understand what was going on. His mother said that she had never come to the gatherings before, so she didn't know about this reunion. At noon, both sons came with their families. After the lively meal, his grandmother still didn't want it to end, so she suggested that they could play games together in the afternoon. But the eldest son made an excuse that he didn't have time. He had to send his daughter to class in the afternoon. He also suggested that everyone should not disturb the grandmother anymore. Just then, the grandmother suddenly said the boy had already told her about her cancer. Everyone looked at the boy in shock.
ก็มันเป็นร่างกายของม่าปะเอ็มว่ามันก็เป็นเศษของม่าที่ม่าต้องรู้อะ
After the boy finished speaking, everyone fell silent. But soon, the question of who would take care of the grandmother and who would inherit the grandmother's old house made everyone quarrel fiercely. Everyone was defending themselves and talking about what they had done. Only the granddaughter truly cared about her grandmother.
โตขึ้นเลม
บัวจะไปเรียนหมอมารักษาอาม่าเองค่ะ
Her innocent words broke the hypocrisy of the adults, made the adults feel extremely embarrassed. They temporarily put aside their etiquette and faced the grandmother. They all told the grandmother not to worry about her life. They would take turns taking care of her and help her defeat the illness. Later, the whole family went to the cemetery to sweep the tomb. The grandmother wished for a luxurious tomb. Then she asked the boy to scatter flowers at the tomb. The boy scattered the flowers very casually for the first time. The grandmother got angry and scolded him when she saw it. However, the promises made by the two sons, only the boy's mother finally took action. She took the initiative to switch her job at the supermarket to the night shift, then accompanied her mother for chemotherapy during the day. The boy wondered if his mother was also greedy for money, but his mother said that she always acted according to her conscience. One should not be ungrateful. The doctor said that more exercise would help, so she also took the grandmother to swim. But when the grandmother learned that her daughter had switched to the night shift to accompany her, she refused to continue no matter what. The boy also didn't want his mother to be so tired, so he took the initiative to offer to take care of his grandmother full-time.
คิดซะว่าเอ็มเป็นตัวแทนมาแล้วกัน
In the days that followed, the boy gradually became careful from being perfunctory at first. He also installed a camera to monitor for emergencies. He would get up early with his grandmother to sell porridge. He helped her bathe without any dislike, because he had no experience. The boy asked his cousin for advice again. It was as if his cousin was born with the ability to take care of others. The grandmother liked her very much at first sight. Later, his cousin took him through the medical process, and told him that during the next chemotherapy, he should remember to sit next to his grandmother and accompany her. Don't leave her when she needs you the most. Chemotherapy repairs the body while also damaging it. Soon, the grandmother even struggled to climb the stairs. The boy stood above and supported her. At this moment, the grandmother let go of her last bit of vigilance and put her hand in the boy's. In fact, the boy was raised by his grandmother when he was a child. At that time, the boy was afraid at night. He insisted on sleeping between her and his grandfather, but the boy couldn't remember these things at all. In the middle of the night, the boy was suddenly woken up by his grandmother because she was constantly worshipping Buddha and praying. The grandmother said that she dreamed that her parents were coming to take her home.
กูจะตายแล้วใช่ไหม
The boy thought for a moment and told his grandmother, with God's blessing, everything will be okay. If she was still afraid, she could sleep next to him tonight, just like when he was a child. Now it was his turn to protect her. Life is a process of growing up from childhood, but in the end, it returns to a state of dependence like childhood.
กูเจอเสียงแล้วนะ
There has always been a pomegranate tree in front of the grandmother's door. On this day, when the youngest son came over, he saw the fruits hanging on the tree. He was about to pick one, when the grandmother shouted at him loudly. She said that it wasn't for him. The grandmother had never liked her youngest son coming over, because every time he came, there was never any good news. Sure enough, this time he came to ask for money again. He even took a large bag of food when he left. Looking at her youngest son's decadent appearance until now, the grandmother muttered that he had better not come. If he didn't come, it meant he was living well. The boy looked at his grandmother. Although she said that, she still cared about her son. On this day, the eldest son came to pick up the grandmother to live with him. The boy clearly felt that his grandmother was happier than usual. The eldest son was wealthy and lived in a villa. He said that a mother should be taken care of by her sons. How could they let a nephew take on this responsibility?
ว่าอยากเป็นลูกเต็มเวลานะ
The grandmother nodded with a look of relief after hearing that. Later, the eldest uncle took out some money and handed it to the boy, thanking him for taking care of his grandmother these days. In fact, they both knew what the other was thinking. The boy didn't accept it, claiming that he wasn't doing it for money. In the afternoon, the eldest son took the grandmother to visit a temple. During the break, the boy found that his grandmother's shoes didn't fit, so much so that her feet were squeezed red, but she still cherished them, because they were bought by the eldest son. Then the boy helped his grandmother write wish cards, sending blessings to everyone in the family. But when he looked at the wishes of the eldest son's family, they were all for themselves. There was no place for him. The boy felt that his eldest uncle didn't really want him to live there, but the grandmother was still defending the eldest son. He had a family, so he must think about his family first. The boy suddenly got angry and walked away.
อาม่าไม่ใช่ครอบครัวอีก
The grandmother stood there dumbfounded. When she turned around, she found the boy's wish. After returning home, the grandmother told the boy she wanted him to help her choose a pair of well-fitting shoes. He suddenly felt that the pair of shoes was a bit inappropriate. He also felt that the old house was more suitable for retirement. The boy accompanied his grandmother throughout the chemotherapy, but the grandmother found that her hair was falling out constantly. The boy took out his mobile phone and turned on the beauty filter. Seeing her youthful appearance again, the corner of her mouth unconsciously raised slightly. He helped his grandmother collect the fallen hair. Even if all her hair fell out, the boy would still be by her side. The grandmother grandmother no longer had to cook porridge herself. She also played games with the boy every day. The boy asked her that after all these years, hadn't she felt lonely? The grandmother said that life was just like that. Her favorite day was the first day of the spring festival. Her least favorite day was the second day of the spring festival, because everyone left her. But the grandmother turned to the boy and said, "Now that you are by my side, it's already very good." On this day, the grandmother found that the money in the cabinet had disappeared without a trace. That was 200,000 yuan she had saved for a long time. The boy quickly explained that he hadn't taken it. After checking the surveillance footage, they found that it was the grandmother's youngest son who had taken it. The boy angrily went to his second uncle's house. The second uncle felt ashamed and told the truth. He had incurred a debt of 1 million yuan. Finally, the boy gave the silver belt to his second uncle, telling him not to go back to get money again during this period. After returning home, he didn't tell his grandmother about this matter. He only said that the second uncle had gone out to work. Suddenly, a stranger knocked on the door. Unexpectedly, that person wanted to buy her house.
บ้านนี้ไม่ได้ขายนะคะ
เขาเป็นในหน้าที่ไหนหรือเปล่าครับ
ไม่รู้จักอ่ะ
At this moment, the grandmother fully understood the boy's original intention, but she didn't expose the boy. She only fetched a piece of clothing, telling him that after the next chemotherapy, he didn't need to come to take care of her anymore. The boy heard that she was driving him away. He took off the clothes and refused to leave. Then the grandmother went out and picked a pomegranate. She said that this tree was planted in the year you were born. When you were a child, you said that if the tree bore pomegranates, don't give them to anyone else, only to you. So many years have passed. The grandmother kept her promise. Although the boy said he didn't remember, he still ate the seeds one by one. This was the taste of family love and the taste of preference. How could the grandmother be willing to drive him away? A few days later, the grandmother took him to her brother's house. Her brother's house was luxurious and spacious, 100 times better than the old house. But the family love between the sisters was no different. But when the grandmother asked for 1 million yuan just to buy herself a tomb, her brother's expression immediately changed. The grandmother said that it was she who took care of their parents until they passed away. She even handled all the funeral arrangements alone. Her brother was not present from start to finish, but their parents left all the real estate to her brother. Hence, he had such a huge family property. This tomb as compensation was not too much for her. However, her brother remained indifferent. Finally, the grandmother had to leave in disappointment. On the way back, the boy also felt confused. Why did she insist on spending 1 million yuan to buy a tomb? The grandmother said that if her tomb was very beautiful, maybe her children would be willing to come and see her. It turned out that the grandmother didn't care about the luxurious tomb. She just wanted to be remembered. Later, the boy continued to take his grandmother for chemotherapy, but after 3 rounds, the condition still didn't improve. The doctor also told them euphemistically, going home for palliative care now could save more money. But everyone could tell that there was no cure. When the boy's mother learned about it, she burst into tears, but the grandmother looked calm. But at night, the pain swept over her. Her weak murmurs woke the boy up. Now that everyone knew the grandmother's fate was sealed, everyone started to covet the real estate. In the end, the boy's mother did not give the real estate certificate to the eldest son. Instead, according to the will the grandmother had made in advance, she gave it to the heavily indebted youngest son. This made the boy extremely confused. He angrily went to ask his grandmother, but the grandmother said coldly that he didn't need to take care of her anymore. The boy was not actually angry about not getting anything for himself. He was angry that it was given to the most incompetent second uncle. In the end, the second uncle used the house to pay off his debts. Then he sent the grandmother to a nursing home. When the boy heard about it, he still cared about his grandmother, so he ran to the nursing home to visit her. He happened to meet the second uncle coming out. He took out the remaining money after paying off the debts and gave it to him, but the boy did not accept the money. He also understood why the grandmother had given the house to him. She just didn't want to worry about this son having an accident. Even if she passed away, she was still taking care of the aftermath. He saw that the grandmother had unbuttoned the bottom button for him. No one except him knew about this habit of the grandmother.
มากับป้ากับเอ็มดีกว่าเดี๋ยวเอ็มต้มโจ๊กให้กินที่บ้าน
Later, the boy took the grandmother to his own home. Even the best nursing home could not compare to the peace of mind of a small home. Finally, the grandmother reached her final moments. Her children all came to see her for the last time. The eldest son still resented that the grandmother didn't want to live with him, but in the end, he was moved by family love. When he was a child, he was always sick. The grandmother stopped eating beef forever to pray for his recovery. That was her favorite food. So how could he say that his mother didn't love him?
มาโชคดีมากนะที่มีหลานมาช่วยดูแล
At this moment, the grandmother could no longer speak. Only the boy stayed with her at night. She struggled to stretch out one finger, as if answering that the boy was number one in her heart. The boy gently comforted his grandmother, softly singing the lullaby he had sung to her when he was young. She passed away peacefully in her sleep. At the grandmother's funeral, the boy was wearing that shirt. He also bought a bowl of beef noodles for his grandmother. At this moment, the boy suddenly received a phone call. The bank said that there was an account in his name. There was a sum of money in it and asked him to come and withdraw it. The boy went home and found the grandmother's passbook. There was 1 million yuan in it. A sum of money was deposited every month, and the account opening information was in his name. But the boy never remembered this. However, the roaring train seemed to bring back memories, reminding him of this road when he was a child, a small episode that had happened.
เอ็มอยากมีเงินเป็นล้านๆอ่ะ
แล้วมึงจะเอาเงินล้านไปทำอะไร
เอาเงินล้านไปซื้อบ้านใหม่ให้อาม่าไง
A small promise the grandmother had kept for so many years, a small tomb. It turned out that it was her wish. The boy withdrew all the money and really bought a luxurious tomb for his grandmother. On the day of the burial, the boy was still with his grandmother.
มารถจะออกแล้วนะ
This time, he scattered the flowers very casually again. How he wished he could see the grandmother scolding him angrily again. The petals fluttered out from his fingertips, as if every gust of wind was a wave of longing. My grandmother is still by my side.